the December 14th meeting of the Orono Town Council to order, and all members are present. Next item on the agenda is recognition of outgoing council chair. Is our outgoing council chair with us? All right.
Here I am.
I can't see her, but hi. So Cindy, one of the enjoyable tasks of the Orono Town Council is to recognize employees and volunteers and committee members for their service to the community. Today, I'm honored to recognize Cindy Maynett for her service of 12 and a half years as a member of the council and 6.5 years as council chair. I've been privileged to serve with Cindy for her entire tenure and have greatly appreciated her steady, thoughtful presence and her important contributions to whatever topic we were dealing with. Her leadership as council chair has been outstanding, and we will clearly miss her. I know the entire council joins me in wishing Cindy well in her future endeavors. Cindy, I think there's you have something there that's been from the council?
Something was delivered. I am over in Rangeley because we're celebrating Saddleback's opening day tomorrow.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So I've talked to the florist and it will be delivered on Wednesday. So thank you very, very much.
All right.
So this is what's coming, Tom.
Very nice. Can you describe
really
it?
neat.
I think, Belle, can you describe that? Where did she go?
I can. I apologize. I'm trying to actually now do it all on my laptop because my Wi-Fi got wonky upstairs with my big screens. And it turns out when you have 37 windows open, it's hard to find the right one to share and then to get back to the meeting. So Cindy, that is actually a wood cut map of the town of Orono. We tried to do the entire town, but the water bodies got incredibly tiny when we went all the way out. So it's primarily the main swath of Orono, but that should be arriving, I believe, on the 17th, and we'll try to arrange to get it to you wherever you might be, whether it's Rangeley or Orono, and perhaps I'll have to make a special delivery. I hear you guys have snow in Rangeley.
2 feet. So thank you very, very much. It's been a real pleasure to serve with all of you, and wish you the best. And we look forward to new counselor in March and watching what you guys do.
Well, they are. Would other counselors like to say anything?
Yes, Cindy, I really appreciated having you there. You're in my, what was that thing we did? The pie, you're in the piece of the pie.
Yes.
The personality. But thank you for everything. I appreciated you meeting with me, and I appreciated your calm coolness, and your wisdom. Wisdom is always appreciated and valued. So thank you. And I know I'll see you around town, and I have a nomination form you can sign. But anyway, no, thanks a lot, Cindy. It's been nice to meet you and to work with you.
Yes, I'd like to jump in. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sam.
Oh, that's okay. I just want to jump in. Cindy, I've known you for, we were neighbors before I was on council. I certainly appreciate as neighbor, and I really appreciated your support when I was considering running. Gave me a lot of advice. Most of it was, some of it was a process of discovery. But I really appreciated that. And also, you know, as Tom and Cheryl, and I'm sure other people will absolutely echo, you just, you know, just a great, you're a great rock, a great voice of reason, great feedback. And even when things would get exciting, or there'd be some of those rare little exciting moments, in the town. You were just this constant presence and of stability and sanity at times when things sometimes didn't feel so sane. But you will be greatly missed, and I do wish you the very best. And I'm sure I'll see you around town, because hopefully in March I'll have some free time too.
Listen, everyone, don't get so excited about not having to come to these meetings anymore.
Oh, we'll be here, Meg. We'll be here.
Good. Yeah, Cindy, I mean, I guess this will become repetitive after a few minutes, but I guess I would add to that I really, as a new counselor in particular, I really always appreciated and also was like a little bit terrified of how in meetings, I always thought when I had my head wrapped around an issue, right, and then you would bring up some points and I would say, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. And I'm really gonna miss having that. I hope that I hope that, we still continue to all do that for each other, but I know that was so helpful to me when I was a new counselor, and that this council has benefited from your ability to kind of think in that very rational, very lawyerly mind, and we'll miss you for sure.
Well, as I guess the youngest, not youngest in age, but time on the town council, I'm kind of sad that I didn't really get to have a lot of years to really to work with you, Cindy. But in the short period, it has been amazingly fun. I will take the funny times, especially last year. It seemed I still think about this. As a matter of fact, this year I thought about it at the packaging up the Thanksgiving Day meals, and I just remember last year when you were doing the turkey, and it was the chaos. And then so Nancy had got to do that. She's like, now I get what Cindy was saying, because it is the hardest thing. So I still laugh and think about that. But thank you so much. I mean, you've given me advice when I've asked, and I think that we all, as we're all echoing, we will miss you, and we appreciate you. And I hope I still get to see you out and about here in town. So good luck.
Cindy, thank you so much for your service and for your wisdom and your gentle moderating force on the council. It was a pleasure to work with you, and I'm glad that you'll be able to enjoy places without having to worry about what day and time you need to be at the council office.
Thank you very much, Lori. I appreciate that. I congratulate your new chair, and I'll be around if anybody has any questions, but I think Tom's got it well underhand. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank the town staff, and especially Sophie. We had laughs together, and I think the town staff is great and has helped me out a great deal. And I will be around. I will still be around for a while, so I'm looking forward to something, teas, walk, something when COVID gets better. So good luck, and thank you for taking time out of your meeting.
Nice to see you, Cindy. Okay, we will move on. And the next item on the agenda is agenda review. We're going to table a couple of items when we get down to them, but we can take care of that later. And there are no other additions. And then we'll move to approval of the minutes of November 9th and November 13th. We received those minutes today, and I hope you've had a chance to review them. Could I have a motion to approve them?
Move approval.
And a second.
Second.
Any questions or comments on them? Corrections, errors? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. And Sophie, is Cindy, is Nancy doing our?
Not tonight. Nancy's
All right.
still on family leave. So I'm going to go ahead and try to fill in.
Well, go for it.
Sometimes it doesn't work.
Let's
so
take a
well.
vote on the minutes, please.
All right. Counselor Osher,
Oh, I'm voting.
Yes.
For the minutes,
Yes, I approve.
Counselor Robertson,
In favor?
Counselor Gardner,
In favor?
Counselor Grenier,
In favor?
and Council Chair Perry.
In favor.
And Sam sent a message that he needs to reset his router. So
Okay.
we have plenty to pass if that works for you.
Yep, it does. Moving on to public hearings, we are going to table our public hearing until the 13th of January. So
I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong date. It is the 14th. Wait a minute. The 11th, I'm
the
sorry.
11th, all right. So I would like a motion to table our public hearing until January 11th.
Move approval?
Second?
And the second, was that Councilor Gardner? Yes.
This matter is still under review by our legal counsel. Therefore, we're going to hold off until we get the final feedback on that. So let's take a vote on the motion to table.
Counselor Perry,
In favor?
Counselor Osher,
In favor.
Counselor Robertson,
In favor?
Counselor Gardner,
In favor?
Counselor Grenier,
In favor?
Counselor Kuntz.
In favor.
That is a unanimous 6-0.
Thank you. And now we're on to acknowledgements by council members. And I'm just going to go down my little list here and start with Councilor Gardner.
Wow, it's I don't want to get too gloomy, but I've started a new temporary, hopefully very temporary job as a contact tracer. And I just want to remind everybody out there, just be careful, be safe,
Yeah.
stay home, don't go anywhere, don't see anyone. I mean, I can't tell you how often the people that I talk to say they know exactly, where they were exposed to COVID, and they say, gosh, I just wish I hadn't have done that. I knew I should, I thought I was being safe, but it wasn't safe. Just everybody be careful out there. It's, cases are on the rise, and, I think a lot of us have gotten either really tired of all these restrictions or maybe a little lax, a little comfortable thinking we're okay. But now more than ever, really stay vigilant and stay safe.
Great advice, Megan. Thank you. Councilor Kuntz.
I'd like to acknowledge I don't know exactly who is ultimately behind it, but I know a lot of people have done some great work with the Stillwater Trail lights, and it's just amazing. I think Adam Toothaker, was a big proponent behind that, and it's great to see him really, jumping in, doing some great community involvement, and everybody else. So many people have been great. That the town just seems incredibly festive too. I know it is usually every year this time of year with all the holidays happening, of course, but it seems like this year there's a little extra emphasis behind it, bringing some cheer. I tried to go get a replacement string of lights, and I went to 3 stores yesterday, being very careful, Megan, wearing my mask and hand sanitizing. But they're all sold out, so everyone has them on their houses. So it looks great, and it's just wonderful. And hopefully we can keep it up, and also just echo Megan's comments about being, extra diligent. It is not a fun journey at all.
Thanks, Sam. Councilor Robertson.
Hi, I took a walk on the Stillwater Park too, and it was very nice. I brought my daughter down. And I wanted to say too, the lights on Main Street, and aren't we voting? Is it voting tonight for the neighborhoods? Sam, the vote for the neighborhood lighting? That's not tonight? Oh, okay.
We ended up moving that ahead one more week because
okay.
we have lots of people who have decorated and it looks wonderful. But not so many people have actually signed up. So
Oh, okay.
we'd
All
like
right.
people to actually sign up so that we have
Ah.
something for our judges to do.
Okay. I was thinking that might have happened already or today. Yeah, so it is nice to see that. I have to admit that I haven't been as festive this year because I've been trying to be careful, but it really does make you smile when you see all of those. Take a walk down Main Street and also on the river trail. And you get to get outside and stuff too. And there's a lot of people out there too. So people are enjoying it. So thank you for everybody who put that together.
Thanks. Councilor Osha?
I want to acknowledge the decorations in front of the town hall. They look fabulous,
They do.
inviting and fun. And I want to thank Tony Perkins, he started this idea of the lights along the trail, along his property. And I hear that Lowe's donated lights to go from the parking lot down the trail, the town trail. I don't know if that's true, but that's a hearsay that I heard. And I was able to take a paddle last night up the Penobscot River to see the lights from the water. And it's really such a testament to the ingenuity of our town, and also to the fact that we really should be a destination for outdoors, because the safest, if you're going to leave your house, the safest place to be is to be outdoors as opposed to inside somewhere. And the lights and all of the decorations in Orono make Orono a place that people can make a destination to get outside and enjoy Maine and enjoy our beauty. So I want to thank everyone who's done the decorating.
Thank you. Terry, for some reason, you're not on my screen here, but I know you're there. Do you have any acknowledgements?
I just actually wanted to remind people that I know that the world of Amazon can be quite convenient for a lot of people. However, there are many, many small businesses in our town and surrounding areas that we really, really need to help as much as possible. And if you kind of follow what's going on, a lot of them are doing things online. So you don't even need to kind of go into spaces to get a gift card or buy. I mean, I've seen places in Bangor that you can actually buy items of clothing online and they'll send it right to you or drop it off. So let's, for the next week and a half before this is all wrapped up, try to give as much business to our local businesses as possible.
Right. I would like to acknowledge our recently retired code enforcement officer, Bill Murphy. Bill had not planned on retiring this soon, but he informs me that he is thoroughly enjoying retirement. I did send him a card on behalf of the council and got a very nice response from him, and commenting on how much he enjoyed working in Orono and working with the Orono staff. So good job for Bill Murphy. Unfinished business, we have none. Consent agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
I'm going to acknowledge a couple of items on the consent agenda. We are reappointing Deborah Blease to the Orono-Veazie Water District. Debbie joined the district at a difficult time, has chaired the district now for quite some time, and has brought them through that difficult time. And I really appreciate the time and energy she has spent on that. We're also appointing Deborah Knowlton to the Library Board of Trustees as a regular member. We are acknowledging our employees for their milestones in service, and I'd just like to read those names. We normally do this at a public function, but that's not possible this year. Being recognized for 5 years of service, Shelley Crosby, Mitch Stone, Nathan Drost, Dave Milan, Keith Crosby, Avi Rude, and Christopher Gray. Being recognized for 15 years of service, Kevin Perry. Being recognized for 30 years of service, Joe Madigan, Rob St. Louis, Brian Hardison, Matt Grindle, and Wes Nelson. And absolutely amazingly, being recognized for 35 years of service, Lori Carpenter. So we congratulate all of those employees. And now we will vote on the motion to accept the consent agenda.
Counselor Perry,
In favor?
Counselor Grenier,
In favor?
Counselor Osher,
In favor?
Counselor Robertson,
In favor?
Counselor Kuntz,
In favor?
Counselor Gardner.
In favor?
6-0, the motion passes.
Thank you. And moving on to new business. Order 20-196, order approving ordinance amendments of the Town of Orono's ordinances, Chapter 18, Land Use, Section 18-130, excavation, removal, and filling of lands. This is an amendment that we have spent a great deal of time talking about, and I'm not sure if our town planner or our town manager wants to say anything about it.
I think our town planner is a panelist, just needs to turn on his video. There he is.
Yep, I'm here. Hi, everyone. So as Council Chair Tom Perry mentioned, this has gone through extensive discussion, both at the planning board level and the council level. It's received, gone through public hearings through both, and it is now up for adoption. So just real quick, just to give a little summary of what it is that you're voting to adopt. The standards are primarily around earth moving activities, and this ordinance language provides some more flexibility, and it really aims to look at the impact of different types of projects in different parts of town and not look at everything in such a kind of black and white manner. So if there are any other questions, happy to answer, but otherwise I agree that we've talked about this quite extensively.
I mean, we appreciate the work that you've done on this. It's taken a lot of time and we've been through several additions. I did not ask for motion, so let me go back and ask for a motion to approve Order 2196, and then we'll see if we have any questions.
So moved?
Second,
Second.
please. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on this order?
No comments, no questions, but I just want to acknowledge the work that Kyle's done on this. And we have really put this through the ringer and has some great points, brought up some great considerations I never would have thought of on my own. And everything was handled great. I feel really great about where we are now with this.
Any other comments? Then I think we're ready for a vote on Order 20-196.
Counselor Gardner,
In favor?
Counselor Kuntz,
In favor?
Counselor Robertson,
In favor?
Counselor Osher,
In favor?
Counselor Grenier,
In favor?
Counselor Perry.
I got muted.
You're fine now.
Okay, in favor.
Passes 6-0.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Order 20-197. Order approving an ordinance in the Town of Orono ordinances, Chapter 18, Land Use, Section 18-140, signs, to permit an exemption for the Town of Orono to own and operate a digital sign adjacent to the municipal offices on Main Street in the Village Commercial District. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
Move approval?
Second?
Okay. Now, Kyle, are you going to comment on this or?
Again, I'll just give a quick little overview. This has gone through both council and planning board public hearings. It didn't receive any public comments, I believe, at either. And this is a smaller change that really the purpose is just to allow the town to operate a digital sign outside of the town office for notifying townspeople of all sorts of different events that are going on, and that this isn't really a massive change to the sign ordinance, which could come sometime in the future.
Thank you, Kyle. Any comments or questions? I'm looking forward to seeing it. Hope it's there soon.
We've ordered it. Now we're just awaiting.
Yes,
You
sir.
should see this within the next couple weeks, according to the contractor.
Great. Ready for a vote on this motion?
Counselor Perry,
In favor?
Counselor Grenier,
In favor?
Counselor Osher,
Oops, in favor?
Counselor Gardner. Oh, sorry, Counselor Robertson,
In favor?
Counselor Kuntz,
In favor?
Counselor Gardner.
In favor.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. The next order, Order 20-198, is the order that we are tabling until our January 11th meeting. Could I have a motion to table Order 20-198, please?
So moved.
And a second? Thank you. And again, this is because it is still under review by our legal counsel.
Counselor
Take a
Gardner.
vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Take a vote, please.
Counselor Gardner,
In favor?
Counselor Osher,
In favor?
Counselor Robertson,
In favor?
Counselor Grenier,
In favor?
Counselor Perry,
In favor?
Counselor Kuntz,
In favor, and you keep confusing me by changing the order up, Sophie. You're being very good.
There's a method to my madness.
Doesn't take much to confuse us, Sophie. Come on.
Pay attention.
Moving on to Order 20-199. Order authorizing the town manager to continue to provide benefits currently paid under the Family First Coronavirus Response Act through February 15th, 2021, should the FFCRA expire as scheduled on December 31st, 2020, without a similar successor act or order of the federal or state government. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Sophie, I think this is yours to explain.
So council might recall that at the beginning of the coronavirus, the federal government passed a law that provided for certain benefits, namely 2 weeks of paid leave in certain circumstances for employees to either be at home dealing with COVID or with a family member or quarantining because of a government order, as well as an expanded Family Medical Leave Act provision that allows certain circumstances around childcare to be eligible for a modified limited amount of family medical leave. So we went ahead as a council, you went ahead and adopted that benefit as it came from the federal government. We had to do that anyway. And you exempted our 2 bargaining units, police and fire, because the federal law allowed you to do that. We then went back to those bargaining units and created side agreements that rolled in as much of the benefits as we could and made some other small alterations to the contract temporarily that would allow us to reasonably provide the benefit. Because I can't just tell everybody in the fire department they can leave for 2 weeks. I mean, that just, that we can't do that. So we have been implementing the FFCRA here on staff. We've had quite a few people actually need to use it. Bell has done a yeoman's job tracking it all. As a local government unit, we are not eligible for the payback that private sector is, but ultimately we're doing what's best for our employees. And so we all kind of got on board with that. So here we are. It has taken us a while to get our payroll software to jive with this act. It has taken a while for us to educate senior staff and employees as to what the act provides. And the act has a sunset of December 31st, 2020 written into it. So council could do nothing and allow the act to expire. The federal government may come along and extend it at the 11th hour or 11th and a half hour, or they may let it expire and the new administration might come in and do something completely different. What I am suggesting is that we keep this benefit in place for our employees as a minimum benefit, meaning if the federal government comes along and adopts something that is richer, we are required to meet the federal government standard anyway. If the federal government allows this to lapse, what we would be saying is we're going to stay with this benefit level through February 15th, which gets us through the next administration taking office. My sense, which I don't have any inside information, would be that when the new administration takes office, they're likely, if this benefit is allowed to expire now, there likely will be some sort of effort made to do something for workers. So going through to February 15th takes us through our a council meeting, a finance committee meeting where we could vet any new alternative arrangement, and it would allow for hopefully a more seamless transition into whatever comes up next. So I want to be really clear, you're doing something you don't have to do. But I also want to be really clear that I think you should do it. I think that it's fair to our employees.
Questions or comments from council members?
You know, Sophie, I don't often disagree with you, but I'm going to here. I think we do have to do it. And it's incredibly disappointing that dysfunction at the federal level is having potentially these catastrophic impacts on regular everyday people who are just trying to live their lives in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, this should not be something that we should have to do, but morally and ethically, I think that we do have to do it.
I just want to add to that. Not only do we have to do it because they're just trying to live their lives, they're serving the community. During, they're helping us in our dire need when this is, happening all around us. So it's the absolute least we can do. So absolutely, absolute support behind this whole thing. Cheryl, I think I just cut you off and I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, Sam. You're just echoing what I was going to say anyway, that this is definitely, and I'm appreciative that we have a town that, and Sophie and staff that even sees that this is a necessity, that we, I don't know what other municipalities are doing. I imagine that we're all in the same boat right now, but I'm very appreciative that we see this and we are forward thinking always, and big picture thinking, that we need to make sure that our people are safe and healthy. So I approve it as well.
Anything else? In that case, we'll take a vote on Order 20-199.
Councillor Gardner,
In favor?
Councillor Osher,
In favor?
Councillor Robertson,
In favor.
Councillor Grenier,
In favor?
Councillor Perry,
In favor?
Councillor Kuntz.
In favor.
6-0, motion passes, and it was exactly the same roll call as the last vote.
Let's see if you can do it 3 times. Order 20-200. Order revising a personnel policy governing those employed by the town of Orono related to the Emergency Paid Leave Act, federal. Could I have a motion on Order 20-200, please.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Sophie, I think this is you again.
It is. So when the federal government passes these acts, they are very quick to exempt healthcare workers and first responders just because of the logistics of allowing people to take time off. The revision you have simply adds that it's pursuant to the Federal Emergency Paid Leave Act or successor acts that provide employee benefits with the authorization to exempt certain groups of employees from the provisions of the act. And then it goes on to say the town of Orono exempts any and all qualifying employees from the act. So the reason for that is to exempt, and then there's got to be a reason they have exempted the employee. Then we would roll in a separate policy if it was a non-union employee group, or we would go to the side letters for the unionized employee groups, just like we're doing now. This is simply to protect the town from having exempt employees rolled in completely into these benefits.
Questions, comments? We set for a vote? Let's have a vote.
Counselor Grenier,
In favor?
Counselor Kuntz,
In favor?
Counselor Gardner,
In favor?
Counselor Osher,
In favor?
Counselor Robertson,
In favor.
Council Chair Perry.
In favor.
That looks like 6-0 motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to council committee representative reports. And I'll start with the finance committee. We did not meet this past week. It's been put forward. However, I did get a chance to review the financial statement for the last month and saw no irregularities in it, and several items were explained by our town manager. So now I'll ask for the comp plan. Do you have a report?
I do. The Comp Plan Implementation Committee met on December 7th. The bulk of our conversation was to hear about, from our town planner, about the feedback from the public outreach on a few zoning amendments that are under consideration, the Village Residential Overlay District and the MDR lot size reduction. So the next steps now would be looking at ordinance language, a legal review, discussing that legal review in committee, and then eventually starting the public hearing process. And then we also reviewed the progress implementing land use elements of the comp plan, identifying next steps. So just, you know, as we start tying up some business, we've accomplished much, but there's still more work to do. So we just kind of had a little bit of an organizational meeting about some potential next steps for that committee.
Thank you, Megan. Community development. Terry, is there anything to report there?
Yes, we met on November 12th, and Cheryl gave us an environmental committee update, and they were looking at submitting DEP grant applications, which was supposed to be on the 13th of November, so I'm sure we'll get more information as we move forward. We also reviewed guidelines for adopting proclamations and resolutions. And the draft guidelines was discussed. Sophie's kind of going to clean that all up, and that here in the future I'll present what we will do with proclamations when that's kind of finalized. We also talked about a policy for code enforcement permit notifications, where we created a process in order to ensure that the public and abutters have access about the issued permits. The council agreed and moved it to consent agenda. And then we had the first stages of a discussion of a Maine Working Communities Challenge. There's a grant involved. There's two things to look at. Number one is the initiatives to grow local economies. And the second one is to improve the diversity and inclusivity in our community. So that's just in the first stage, and you'll hear more of it as it moves on.
Thank you, Terry. Cheryl, is there anything to report from the Environment Committee?
I'll unmute me. Yes, we met I have November 21st, right around there anyway. And so we are beginning the process of getting our environmental plan, the charge, now down on paper. We've had lots of discussions about how to do it in the process. So we're narrowing our focus. We'll be meeting tomorrow night, actually. We're narrowing our focus. We're really we're really trying to align our plan with Maine's climate action goals, which is out now and out and about. And recognizing also that Orono is its own community as well, and that we have things that may not be addressed as a statewide initiative rolls out, but that we want to make sure that we stay. And we're also working diligently on recognizing what we do already. And it's really important that we keep that in the plan, because we really are ahead of the game on some level. And it's nice to go through what the state has decided as climate goals, and as municipalities start to talk about those climate action plans. That we already have a staff that is conscientious about what we do environmentally. So it'll be nice to get it all in one place, which is, sort of what I was hoping for when I kind of started this. I also want to report that because I'm kind of getting involved in some of this, that I did attend a webinar that had to do with municipal climate action planning. And this was through the Greater Portland governing community of governments. And they're launching a planning program to support the development of plans. So we did this first, and now they're kind of rolling this out. So they're also providing technical support, and they're helping us out with grant funded initiatives for our town, and as far as that we can take advantage of. And one of them is I lost my train of thought. Anyway, it's an initiative to just to do some work with our municipal buildings, and also to start thinking about electrifying our town with them. And I know I've talked about charging stations and things like that, but they're also helping to reduce the cost of planning and monitoring. And they're taking advantage of regional efficiencies in implementation and knowledge sharing. So I'm kind of attending those webinars, and I'm attending them for the sole reason of helping out our municipality with this. I've also been told that through this initiative that towns and municipalities who have a climate action plan in place might end up at the top of grant funding lists because they don't have to take that extra step. So I think this is good that we're looking at this at the moment. And I think there's going to be a lot of legislative action. We're going to see a lot of legislative action in this new legislature that's going to be focused around climate change. So I'm happy that we're starting this now. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Very informative. Speaking of legislative action, Lori, we are very fortunate to have a member of the state legislature on our council. And I'm wondering if from time to time you'd like to report on what's going on there that might be of interest and significance to the council and the town.
I would be very happy to do that. And I could just report that I was sworn in at the beginning of December, and my dance card is full of Zoom meetings since then, because the cloture, which is the date that that bills need to be in for the legislature is December 18th, and that's this Friday. And so the members of the legislature have been working diligently to discuss issues we think are important, and to have individual people say that they would take the lead on different bills. I'm part of the Democratic caucus, and then we also have sub caucuses on housing and working families, and on climate change and coastal issues and aging, so that I've been participating in. I'm open to putting in bills for people in our district, of course, and I've been contacted already by 2 people about bills that they would like me to submit. And Ryan Tipping had told me that the very first bill he submitted when he was a new legislator was something that someone in Orono figured out would be better. The whole state would be better if this experience she'd had working in the library, it was Lisa Feldman, could be addressed. And so that was it was a tax bill, it was his first bill. So I'm in that place right now, and I'm happy to keep the town council informed. I know that Bangor had a meeting with all of their legislators, and since they're a much bigger area, they have more legislators, and we have just me and Jim Dill. So that's another possibility. No?
No, don't forget Joe Perry.
Oh, excuse me, Joe Perry. Yes, excuse me, Joe Perry. So if you'd like to organize something or have me organize something for all of us, that would be, I'd be happy to do that. But otherwise, I can give a little bit at each of the town council meetings of what bills are being addressed that affect Orono.
We're fortunate to have that contact, and thank you. We have written on our agenda a workshop discussion on transforming self for racial equality. And I believe Councillor Gardner and Councillor Grenier are going to bring us up to date on some recent training they've had.
Yes, I will get things started. So Terry and I, a few weeks ago, we attended a seminar, a training through the Multicultural Student Center, which is part of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion at UMaine. And the seminar was Transforming Self for Racial Equity. So the sort of larger view of the seminar was to think about the impact of race, and specifically racial inequities in American society, particularly things that one can be, blind to based on relative privilege or societal norms. The seminar also encouraged a lot of self-reflection about the ways in which these inequities have and have not shaped our own individual lives. And for me, one of the most impactful parts of that seminar, and I know Terry's going to talk about, what was most impactful for him, but for me, it was the question sort of halfway through the seminar. The question was posed to the group of us: when did you first realize or become aware of your own race? And the reason that I wanted to go into a little more detail about that question now is just that I think it's often kind of difficult for white people to talk openly about race as it relates to their own whiteness. I think that a lot of white people who are interested in racial equity are more comfortable talking about the inequities they see for other racial groups. And I think that sometimes there's a lot of discomfort around talking about one's own racial group for white people. There are a lot of reasons for this. I mean, there are a lot of cultural controls around discussing race for white people. You just don't bring it up. It's not polite, or maybe people feel ashamed or embarrassed or worried they'll say the wrong thing, or they genuinely just don't want people to think poorly of them because of their race, which is ironic, given the subject. But, silence is not going to ever help us make a path forward. And particularly for us as elected officials, as a group of policymakers, and in service of, doing the work around racial equity, I think it's really important. And I think our community would find it really useful for us to get comfortable with talking about race and racial inequities in view of the public. So I thought maybe I could use this as an opportunity to kind of warm us up in that direction. And I wanted to kind of start by briefly sharing my experience of that question. When did you first become aware of your own race? And maybe this can be the beginning of a larger conversation, where we can talk about, how we understand our whiteness in the world. So I'm going to tell a more general version briefly of this story than the one that I shared in private in the seminar, just because it involves another person and this is a public meeting on the record. But the gist of the story is that, as many of you know, I grew up in a blue collar place of a sort of a lower socioeconomic status. And I was fortunate enough in middle school to earn a scholarship to a prep school that was otherwise it would have been difficult for me to attend for financial reasons. And so when I was there, I felt a little bit like an outcast because I was different in a very specific way from the majority of my classmates. I had had different educational experiences and I had a different home life. And because of socioeconomic status, I felt like I stuck out a little bit. And the interesting thing was that there were a small group of us who kind of bonded together pretty quickly as friends because we were kind of in the same boat, that for one reason or another, we were sort of different from the other kids at this prep school. And one of my friends who was of a different race, she and I were joking around one day about something. And I was teasing her about a boy that she was flirting with and who was flirting back with her. And she said, well, he's never going to date me. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, because I'm not white. And it was really like a bomb going off for me. Like I really thought of myself as someone, I've been raised by kind people who said everybody's equal and, don't treat anybody differently. Everyone's the same. And I was aware of her race as being different than mine, but I never thought about it that way because I saw us as these underdogs who were from poor neighborhoods and like we were friends toughing it out in the school together. And I saw us as equals in that way. And it never occurred to me once that she had a whole additional layer of disadvantage in this environment than I did, or that I had, I guess the way I should say it is I had a whole level of advantage that I was not even thinking about. And I think that's one of the things about whiteness that's important to talk about, and particularly important for policymakers to talk about and think about when they're making policy, which is, what is the thing that you assume is baseline? For me, I assumed that she and I were having the same experience at this school because we were both poorer than our classmates. I'd never thought about the fact that, I would never assume that some boy wouldn't bring me home to meet his mom because of anything about me. And that she had this whole other layer of complication that she was dealing with navigating that space. So I think that for me, it's really important. And I think about this story a lot. I mean, it was a long, long time ago, but I think about it a lot because I was looking at the world through my lens. And my lens is often in this country, the dominant lens, right, of whiteness. And so as a human, but also now as a policymaker, I really want to think about the ways in which, my lens might be keeping me from seeing things. So for me, that was really the most impactful part of that training. And I would encourage, as we make our way through this process for folks to maybe think about that. Maybe you want to answer it in the public setting during a workshop, or maybe you don't, but to at least think of that question. When is the first time that you became aware of your own race? And what does that mean for you? So.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
So let me continue with this. So one of the things that when we did this, I was so happy that I did this because it is one of those things that's a personal journey. That's what I'm learning from this whole thing, is that it's not just about maybe in my past that if I put a sign or a flag outside, my job's done, move on, look at me, I'm doing the best thing. When in reality, I keep hearing over and over, and I've said this before, that there is this, it's our responsibility as white people to really educate ourselves on exactly what's happened, what continues to happen, what we think is not happening. But in this actual webinar, is that what they call it? I'm not sure. the thing that really struck home with me was we had an opportunity to listen to a short version of a film that you can find on YouTube. There's a longer version that I went back and watched and ultimately cried. It's called The Color of Fear, and it was directed by a gentleman named Lee Manoir. And it starts out with basically people from all different backgrounds, and they're having these conversations, and it's light and airy about, like, you know, somebody saying, well, you know, I'm black and I can't do that. And there's, you know, they'll make comments, and the white people would kind of almost have this like awkward kind of chuckles. And then it kind of escalates into this thing where you don't expect the black gentleman to get angry, and he gets really angry. And that's the portion that we found, was that as the white people, they were like really like not getting it, not quite understanding. So if you continue to watch this, I went back and watched the longer version. It really actually has people from a bunch of other backgrounds that have actually interacted with the white population there, about, like, you know, like we're saying, like Meg said, it's like you just don't realize that being white, just the advantages of being white. You can sit there and feel like, oh yeah, but I was poor. Well, you still have advantage kind of stuff. So at the very end, the gentleman that we saw, the white gentleman that was very awkward at the very end, made some profound statements that led the guy who was really angry to say, this is the beginning of our conversation. So it was really really moving for me, and I ask and hope that you guys watch it. Once again, it's Color of Fear, and it's on YouTube, and it's a good watch. Also, I've been watching these other videos, just really wanting to kind of delve into this. There's a gentleman named Emmanuel Acho. He does this series. There's quite a few videos out there, uncomfortable conversations with a black man, and he really takes people, brings them in. There's a big gamut of different things that are people he'll talk to, and he has those tough conversations. But I want to leave you with his statement. And there was one he was dealing with the police officers, and you know, during the whole defund the police and the Black Lives Matter movement and all that. And he made a statement that really resonates in my mind. It's amazing. He says, proximity breeds care and distance breeds fear. Not enough proximity between people who do not look the same results in lack of caring. So when we sit there and we create our world around just us being around white people, and he asked the question, and when was the last time you had dinner with some black people? And every one of the white people said, I've never had dinner with a black person. So it's the proximity of what we create, which means we don't look at the other side. So that I just want to share that statement. But overall, I'm glad that Sophie and Meg and I joined it. It was well worth it. It's just another level for me personally on my education of what I can do to change what the status quo is and be effective. So thank you.
And just as a plug for these trainings, and there are other places, of course, that any of us can go and get trainings, but these ones they're really great. And you know, there's a link. I know I sent out the Multicultural Humane page to you guys a while ago, but there's just a link for trainings, and I think they'll have a new slate in the upcoming semester, and they're online, very comfortable, very well led by the staff at the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and I highly recommend them. So, I mean, I'm probably going to sign up for another one, and I'll let folks know.
Good.
And just to tag, so when I was teaching at the University of Maine, they have a University of Maine Multicultural Diversity Leadership Institute, which is a year long for faculty and folks who want to be, and doesn't have to be faculty, who wanted to do that. And I'm listening to you, Meg, and I remember that question, and thinking about my first experience too, experiencing race. But yeah, I imagine that if they are adopting those sessions at the Center for Inclusion, that there's probably some pretty powerful workshops that are coming up. So yeah, so good. This is nice to hear these experiences again.
Thank you both for sharing that. Okay, we're moving on to future agenda items or items of concern. Do we have any? Any councilors would like to bring up a future agenda item or item of concern? I'm seeing shaking heads. I think we're all set there. Public petitions, I assume we do not have any of those, Sophie. And public comments, I don't see any in the chat box. Sophie?
I have a couple, if I may.
Yep.
Okay. First, I just wanted to give council an update as to the status of our isolating and quarantined employees. As of the email that I sent you on Friday, we had 11 employees that were either in isolation or quarantine. The difference being isolation is for people who test positive for COVID, quarantine are for people who are in close contact testing, don't yet have a confirmed positive. Luckily, at this point, we are at 10 people. The person who was quarantining due to travel has received a negative test result at the end of their quarantine and are set to come back to work. We are still awaiting the one individual had a negative test. We need to resend them because of the window that the test was taken. But it does highlight that I just want to say publicly, my staff is doing an incredible job, not only providing services today, but also thinking about how am I going to provide services with 75% of my staff, or 60% of my staff, or 20% of my staff, or how am I going to cover operations if I don't have anybody on staff? And that's not a comfortable place for municipal officials to be. And I will work really hard to keep you up to date. But if the surge hits our town staff the way it's hitting the state and increasing, people are going to have to brace for reductions in service, simply because when you only have enough people to do the job, when people start falling out, it means that the job that they're doing has to shrink. As we make those decisions, we remember first and foremost that we are an employer and required, have a general duty to provide a safe work environment. So that is always at the forefront of our mind. And I'll keep the council in the loop as best I can. We've gotten a few inquiries about the recycling calendar. So I'm going to say one last time, maybe not the last time, but again, the recycling calendar that was sent out to people had a mistake in it. We have posted a new calendar online and have posted what you have in the Orono Observer. It was corrected in the Observer. I'm going to give the pitch though. The best way for you to get information about recycling is to go online and in the search bar on the front page of the website, type in recycling app and you get step-by-step instructions for how to download and use a recycling app that will remind you. You put your street address in and it will remind you when to put your recycling out. It's pretty cool. Avi and Belle found that for us and works very, very well. 'Tis the season. And I want to remind folks that if they have holiday trees that need to get picked up after the holidays, between January 4th and January 15th, Rob Yerksa and the Public Works crew will be out to collect them. So if you have a live tree that needs to get chipped and find a home in the chip pile, we will take care of that for you, but it's got to be out between the 4th and the 15th of January. And finally, not finally, Nomination papers are out. They went out on November 30th. They are due back January 7th. So please, if you're interested in running for one of the empty council seats or school board seats, you want to make sure you get your nomination papers. And if you have questions, if you call Shelley at the town clerk's office, she will walk you through whatever question you have regarding the election.
Quick question about that. There are two separate papers to sign up for the council seats. There are the 3-year term, and then separately are the 2-year term.
Yes.
So if you don't take them, you need to decide which one you want to run for. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can take both sets of papers out and only return one. Your name can only appear once in the ballot for each. So you have to decide council or school board and then take out papers. School board's got the same situation. There's a 1-year term and a 3-year and 2 3-year terms up. When you return them, you have to have decided. You either return the 3-year term for council or the 2-year term for council. You can't do both.
Gotcha. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
And then in the carrying along with the sentiment of diversity and racial inclusion, I wanted to let folks know that members of the senior staff on town staff have been meeting with representatives from campus. We are getting ready to roll out the University of Maine Town of Orono Diversity and Inclusion Partnership. And we right now are working on kind of the platform. It's web-based, taking, and we will, once it goes through the universities, many layers of approvals, and we get a draft that we know the university will like, I will bring that back to council for your input before it goes live.
Great. Thank you,
That's it.
Sophie. Okay. We are going to move into an executive session. In order to do that, we're going to close out this session once we take the appropriate motion, and we will come back with a new Zoom link for the executive session. So I'm going to ask for a motion to move into executive session pursuant to MSRA paragraph section 405D for the purpose of discussing negotiations with the Maine Association of Police Orono Unit.
Tom,
Could I have
could
a
I just ask a question before? Are we coming back after executive session? So do we, okay, we're not coming back to
No, we're
adjourn.
not, we will not be
Okay.
coming back.
All right.
There is, the only thing that is going to come out of this is direction to staff, which will happen in executive session. There is no vote to be taken for this.
Okay, so we're adjourning, basically.
We're adjourning the public
Right.
public meeting and moving on to an executive session, after which there will be no formal action. So did I get a motion?
So
Don't
moved.
think-
Yes.
And a second? Thank you. Sophie, take the vote, please. You're muted.
Counselor Gardner,
In favor?
Counselor Grenier,
In favor?
Counselor Kuntz,
In favor?
Counselor Robertson,
In favor?
Council Chair Perry.
In favor.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so we will close this meeting and come back to an executive session.
Everybody has the link? Yes, okay.
Yes. All right.